He runs everything. He's the boss. Not really, but we're going to call him that. He's a good guy. So again, but we are streaming. So welcome everybody. See I just wanted.
Oh yeah, so there's a delay.
There's a couple second delay. That's the best one I can get. I was going to connect it, but this is something I never did before either. But I wanted to make sure that the guests can see them where they are on the camera, and so that's why I put that there monitor. I have a monitor. I may have to bring that next time.
Yeah.
So welcome everybody. As you know, I am your host. I'm attorney Stephen Leahy. We're here today. Is it Olsson?
Yes.
Okay, because obviously different spelling.
Correct. Different spelling. So, and multiple stories as to why that's a different spelling, and that are still coming out today.
Is that your married name? Is that your?
No, it's my maiden name. So it's anywhere from it got switched when my ancestors came over to they didn't like one S, so they just put another one in there. A whole bunch of different stories.
That's a Norwegian or something like what is
Swedish.
That? Swedish, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So my grandfather's from Finland on my mom's side. His father was from Finland. His mother was Swedish. They were right on the border. Because I remember my grandfather's sister came in their 90s, and she's showing me on the map where their parents were from. It's like Wisconsin, Illinois.
Yeah,
you know,
right there. No difference.
Hey, Josh, can we let's do the podcast start.
Thank you so much for tuning in to our podcast. Another great episode is on the way.
Ladies and gentlemen, fasten your seatbelts and join Stephen and Jim as they talk about everything under the sun and have a whole lot of fun.
All right.
News, sports, movies.
It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Pop culture, and puppies.
You love puppies.
It's the Watch Talk Radio podcast.
I keep forgetting that Jim's not here. My nephew is Jim. He's the one that introduced it. He was on the show for many years. Took over for his dad when his dad passed, because his dad was my co-host, and then he passed away. And then I had Jim on, and it just clicked well, and so Jim was on the show for some years. But he just took a job a couple weeks ago, so I think it's like my third week without him.
A local job?
Yeah, he's in Chicago, but he can't work on Fridays. And
yeah.
So he did a lot of the producing, and that's why he was much better at getting back to people than I am.
You did,
like you.
You were fine. You did fine.
So, because now I'm trying to juggle all that.
Right. Everything's on your plate.
And, he used to get the guests and all that. I think I'm better at it than him. I feel like Obama, because he said, "I'm better at my publicity than my publicist. I'm better at my campaigner than my campaigning." So, but actually he's not. Actually, I'm not. So, but it's a lot of fun. So I wanted to introduce our guest today is Stephanie Olsson. Welcome to the show, Stephanie.
Thank you for having me.
You are Glasgow and Olsson.
Yes.
Thomas Glasgow is a regular on this show. He's been on several times already.
A few times already.
And we highly value him. We've talked a lot. Generally, we got him on. Jim tracked him down as a Second Amendment attorney. And so we talk a lot about, and man, the guy knows a lot about
he knows a lot about the Second Amendment
and gun rights.
Yes.
and gun laws. And,
yes.
and he's shared a lot of great information about what to do if you're going to be concealed carry, for instance.
Yeah,
all of that.
He teaches classes on concealed carry.
Yeah. So he's a great asset to have, and of course, anybody that he would recommend, he recommended you. You're a highly trusted professional. So again, welcome to the show. I hope you can be a regular on the show also.
Absolutely.
And because you could share a lot of great information with our audience, and that's what we're hoping that you're going to do today, and I know you will. So maybe we wait till we get into the show. Because I have this habit of taking all the great content and putting it in between segments instead of putting it on the radio show.
Sure. I can see that happening.
So I try to figure that out. But I have that tendency. So and then we'll start the show whenever you're ready, Josh.
Welcome to the Trust Radio Network. Join your host, attorney Stephen A. Leahy, every Saturday night at 7, right here on AM 560, as he engages in conversation with some of the most trusted professionals in all of Chicagoland. Enjoy interviews with local professionals dedicated to providing the very best products and services. Learn who they are, what they do, and most importantly, why they do it. Take a step inside the minds of some of Chicagoland's most successful business leaders and learn all there is to know every Saturday night at 7 on the Trust Radio Network. Now, here's your host, attorney Stephen A. Leahy.
Well, welcome to the Trust Radio Network here on AM 560, The Answer. The Trust Radio Network is where we introduce you to trusted professionals. I am your host. I'm attorney Stephen Leahy. And remember now, this show is sponsored by the Law Office of Stephen A. Leahy, PC, and Opum Tax Advocates. Opum Tax Advocates helps business professionals solve IRS problems. We help them with audits and levies, liens and garnishments, collections, unfiled tax returns, and payroll tax issues. We also help people with mortgage foreclosures, loan modifications, bankruptcy, and other debt-related issues. So if you have any of these problems, or if you know someone who does, you should give us a call at 312-664-6649. Again, that number is 312-664-6649, or you can visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. Now, again, this is the Trust Radio Network where we introduce you to trusted professionals, people you can trust when you're making important decisions. Now, that generally means is that I'm going to introduce you to a trusted attorney that you can trust. Again, who do you go to when you're looking for an attorney? You go to Yellow Page, I guess Yellow Pages. Nobody goes to Yellow Pages. Google. You go to Google everybody. But it's the same thing as Yellow Pages. You can't really tell. So you need someone to, we want to recommend people to you, and we have a trusted professional here today. And her name, our guest this week is attorney Stephanie Olsson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Keep the fanfare down. Well, welcome to the show, Attorney Olsson. We just meeting today.
Yes.
You are a partner with an attorney who is a trusted professional on this show, Thomas Glasgow, and so we wanted to have you on the show also and share your knowledge, because tell the people what you do.
So I'm primarily a divorce attorney, and it's not just divorce that that I take as all domestic relations. So child custody, child support, alimony, maintenance. If you're not married and you've had a child or children, we can help you with that as well. And then we, of course, do all kinds of other things, Tom, with criminal work, everything from traffic to murder. Attempted murder, and then civil cases, Secretary of State hearings. We run the gamut, but I am focusing on divorce at this time.
Okay, that's a tough line of work because you find now again most attorneys, right? We're working with people that are finding themselves in a tough situation, whether it's criminal law or I help people who are fighting the IRS. But when they're fighting their spouse, that's a difficult matter.
It is. It's very emotionally tolling on everybody. And so they're not coming to you happy by any means. And so my job is really to pick up the pieces and make sure that they not walk away empty-handed and have the tools, whether that means going into getting more education so that they can support themselves or having an ability to properly parent their children. It's my job to get them there. So my job's not just to deal with the financial aspect or a parenting schedule, but it's actually to help the person as well so that they can be successful after this really traumatic event in their life.
I don't know if people understand about the how long they have to live with the divorce decree, right? And how it's going to structure your future. Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So at the end of it, you will end up with two documents at the very least. One is for the finances in your estate, and the other is for children. And that document for children, it's called an allocation judgment, and it goes from the time that is entered until the child's 18 years old. So it is a long time. So a lot of times you have people who come in with children who are 3 or 4 years old, and they have to make decisions on what these children will be having to do in high school. So it's a big document, it's a voluminous document, and it's a detailed document to make sure it's in the best interest of the kids.
I do come across this, and again, because that's how I kind of know this, because people down the road, they're still kind of figuring out, what the rules are. We always have to go back to the divorce decree.
Oh,
and say,
absolutely.
People in taxes, one of the biggest thing in taxes is who gets the deduction every year. Right?
Oh, absolutely. Well, and now with laws changing, which you can attest to, it's, the parent who has that child the majority of the time. And so you have these husbands or wives who don't have the child the majority of the time, and they still want that deduction, especially with the stimulus that's available currently.
Yes.
So it's become very contested. Those are really big numbers at this point.
Because now that we have the child custody credit, child credit, and whoever has custody, they get that money.
Right. It's a whole new ballgame, and it brings up the question of, okay, well, how do we plan for the future? Because these are documents for forever, potentially, right?
Yeah.
Until they're modified. And I don't know how long these stimulus payments are going to continue. So it makes things very difficult at this point.
Talk a little bit about modifying, because I think people don't realize, sometimes a couple or a divorced couple will come to an agreement amongst themselves, or they think they do, and they don't get it changed, the judges. Talk a little bit about how important that is.
Sure. So it's very important. So if you're talking about finances, the majority of that is not modifiable with respect to property and how that's dictated in the agreement. However, child support is typically always modifiable. And so you never want to trust that you have an agreement with an ex-partner, because the judge does not care that you had that agreement. If they said you could only pay $100, and you've been doing that for 10 years, when you all get into a fight, they are going to be back in court telling you that agreement never existed, and you are going to owe a lot of money.
They're going to come after you.
Oh yeah. Eventually they will come after you.
So talk a little bit about the way the state works, because a lot of times the state gets involved in collecting that money.
Yes. So that's called the State Disbursement Unit. So it's actually a really great tool. When I first started practicing, I thought it was a little bit of my wages are garnished, I'm embarrassed about that. But no, I think it's a wonderful tool, because it's right there in black and white what you've paid, what you haven't paid, and your employer can't take any action against you because you're getting your wages garnished. I think it protects both parties, and a payment is just absolutely taken out each and every pay period. It's a wonderful tool.
Because I've had people who came to see me and their children are in their 30s, they're still paying.
Oh yes, because they charge interest, and so you may, you could maybe only owe $50,000 in back child support, but I'm making these numbers up. But you owe $180,000 because of all the unpaid interest. So it's very sad, very sad, and it's not laughable, but it happens.
But people don't realize it, right? Because as you said, if I was supposed to pay $700 a month. We agreed I was going to pay $100,
right?
And all of a sudden, years later, she said, "No, you were supposed to pay $600, and you never paid me."
Right. And it's so sad when that happens, because typically there was an agreement made because the person couldn't financially afford it, because the child support laws and the maintenance laws are pretty much blind to people's scenarios that they're in. So
when people say that they can't afford it, a lawyer to help them, they should get a lawyer to help them, because they can't afford not to have one.
Absolutely. Yeah. Otherwise, you're just going to end up in a world of hurt and language written that you don't understand, so that you can't comply with. And then in the end, it'll cost you more money.
I love that you point that out, because so many attorneys, you read some of this stuff and you can't make heads or tails of it. What does it mean?
Right.
And so many, and that's the attorneys doing that, isn't it?
Right. The one party to the other party to the receiving party, it gets convoluted.
But it doesn't have to be that way.
No. I mean, the simpler it is, the better. But sometimes that's the only way to explain things.
I understand. So, but again, what I was saying that when you're having a problem, some dispute, or even not even a dispute, if you're trying to change things, you should go see an attorney.
Absolutely, because the attorney will tell you, yes, I can help you, or no, this is a waste of your time. So even just on the front end, if what you're trying to do is a viable option. So, and then they can guide you with how to do it.
And if you're going to change the agreement, have the judge okay it.
Yes. Yes.
So
Make sure it gets entered.
That's so important. So now we're coming to the end here. So what I would like you to do is tell people, like, where do you work?
Sure.
And how can they contact you?
Sure. So our law firm is Glasgow and Olsson, 847-577-8700. Our office is in Schaumburg. You can call us to make appointments and we will meet with you. We will advise you of your rights. We will advise you the best course of conduct, and we will listen to you. Most importantly, you will have a voice at our firm, and we will be honest and open and forthright with you.
Well, I think that's so important to get the right attorney. That's why we have this show, The Trusted Professional. So you can meet the trusted professionals, people that you can trust when you're making important decisions. Again, attorneys, too, the biggest thing about attorneys, people tell you they don't listen to me. Mm-hmm. So if you need to be listened to about your tax returns or taxes, then you should contact Open Tax Advocates at 312-664-6649. You can visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. Now we're going to take a short break, listen to our sponsors, come back here for our show on AM 560, The Answer.
On whatever you have it up on.
It's wrong. 847?
Yep.
It's not 847?
It is. Oh, he was seeing 312.
Oh, maybe I have it wrong. I have it I have it a couple places. I have it here at 847.
Yeah.
So that's right. So where do I have it wrong? I might have it wrong somewhere. Is it on the?
It was on the feed.
Okay, let me see if it's on this. I meant to have you check this stuff before I went on. Is it this one?
You saw it as 312 somewhere.
No, this is 847.
Maybe it was on the.
I have it a number of places, so let me check to see where else I have it. Okay, I have it here. 847.
Mm-hmm.
I have it here. I got it. 847.
Okay.
Where do I have it on 312?
I don't know. I'll tell him we don't see it.
Well, I got it on there, right? So
Okay.
I'll keep an eye out for
Okay.
if it comes up that I gotta take I'll take an eye out for it. So if it's you know where I have it wrong? Maybe I have it wrong on this. Oh, I probably do. This is where I have it wrong. I just won't use this again.
Oh, okay.
That's where I have it wrong.
Oh, okay.
That's me. Sorry about that.
Okay.
That's silly, Steve. Okay, so I won't use that slide. Okay. Let's do the second segment. We're going to talk about people you help.
Okay.
Maybe a recent case that you had. Maybe some other. Maybe a nightmare case that you've had.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
Sure. So one thing, divorce cases are very specific, so I'd have to talk more in general.
Well, yeah, you talk general. You don't want. I don't want you to break any attorney-client relationship. But you could tell a story without telling us who they are.
Sure.
And I don't do that. So I don't know. I don't know what a situation might be.
Yeah.
So maybe you do. So I don't know.
Yeah, there was one a long time ago about hiding a business and how successful the business was.
If anybody, so my first case was a divorce case. It was my grandmother's.
Oh no.
She had got divorced, and he was a veterinarian, and she ran the vet hospital. And so when they got divorced, the judge found her to be a partner and split everything. Of course, that was her second husband, not my grandfather. And he was irate about this because you can't be a partner. You're not a doctor.
Yeah.
And so then he finagled her to sign something that gave it all back to him after the divorce. So I had to go back and that was my first thing. And I fought with this attorney and we won.
Nice.
I saw that attorney. He was really rude to me and not nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I ran into him many, many times throughout the years because I was downtown. He was downtown. So I saw him very often.
Uh-huh.
And because I remember because he said something to me like I was lying to the judge, and I proved that I wasn't. I said, "Where's my apology?"
Yeah.
He never gave me an apology. So that was my first foray in my first impression of attorneys, and he was not a nice guy. But most attorneys are good.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of them out there who are wholly unreasonable.
Yeah.
But then when you come across a really great one, it renews your confidence in the world.
Most
of
are
attorneys.
reasonable, I think.
I agree.
Most I get, we can get along with, and again, I've had some. Actually, I had a run-in with one attorney, and he wound up to be, I talked to him very often, referred people to him.
Yeah, isn't that funny how you can start off on the wrong foot with somebody and over time you develop a really wonderful friendship?
Yeah, because he got right in my face and he's like, "Ugh," and I said, of course, I'm kind of a rough guy. I said, I don't know where you come from, sir, but where I come from, a man gets in your face, he usually winds up on his ass. And of course I didn't. So people were all like, wow, that was kind of a conflict. I'm like,
Right.
wasn't a conflict. Again, where I come from, that's not a conflict. The conflict is when there's fisticuffs.
Right.
Then there's a conflict.
Right.
But I never got into that with attorneys. But I just thought, and again, he became a guy that I've referred business to, and he's referred business to me. And so you never know.
Right. You don't. You absolutely don't.
I'm all for advocating for your client. Right.
Absolutely.
And too many attorneys, I think, do not advocate for their clients.
Right. And a lot of that is just simply not listening to what your client is really trying to tell you of what is important to them. And you know, maybe that doesn't mean that you specifically need to look for that exact item that they're looking for, but the purpose behind that item and solve it a different way. There's always an avenue to solve a problem for a client.
I know, especially when no matter what it is, because you have attorneys that could fight for you, and some that kind of roll over.
Right.
Whether that's in criminal court or family court or tax court, or because sometimes it's easier for the attorney just to go along and get along. I'm all for fighting a fight,
right?
A good fight,
right. I mean, and when you fight that fight and you advocate and you win, it feels great. You feel like a real attorney, and it renews your zest for all of your other clients.
I agree with that.
And the tenacity that you need to bring to every case.
And of course we don't win all the time, and maybe I don't. I haven't, I should say. But I've learned over the years not to take it personally and not to take it all the. But
yes,
that's hard.
It's a hard pill to swallow, and I think it takes a little bit of time to get that tougher skin and thicker skin, so that it doesn't roll into the next day.
And you have to remember that it isn't your case.
Right.
And I always tell my clients, it's actually your case, right? So I've forgotten how I've gotten around that. It's just fight for everybody. If do the best I can. I make mistakes like everybody else, but fight the good fight. If you lose, you fought the good fight,
right? And
you can't blame. And again, it's their case,
right?
And the facts are what the facts are.
Exactly. You can't fight the facts.
Exactly, and sometimes people come. That's what you don't want to take those cases. Yeah, I'm unreasonable expectations.
Unreasonable expectations, or back to our first segment, the people who made those side agreements and you can't do anything for them.
Yes,
because they won't be happy with you when they owe the money they had to pay.
Exactly. So you're better off passing on a case like that.
Right.
I get this all the time. In my line of work. We have what they call offers and compromise, right? I always say, if I ask 500 of my clients who wants an offer and compromise, 500 hands go up. But in reality, less than half of 1% of the people get that. But that's what everybody wants. So when they come to me and they say, I want you to do an offer and compromise, I got to decline. Because I'm not going to get it for you.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be happy. And then I'm going to have an unhappy client.
Exactly.
And no matter what you pay me isn't worth the unhappiness.
Right. It's so much.
So okay, we're going to talk about cases. Okay,
sure.
So tell us a little bit about people. So what I really would like to do is have people recognize themselves and say, yeah, I need her to help me. Okay, Josh.
And now, back to the Trust Radio Network on AM 560. The Answer. Real conversations with some of the most trusted professionals in Chicagoland. Once again, here's attorney Stephen A. Leahy.
Welcome back to the program. We're here with Joliet Josh, our technical producer, and our guest this week is Stephanie Olsson of Glasgow and Olsson. Welcome back to the show, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Now, you help people with in family matters. Tell us a little bit about the people you help and what kind of situations. So if people are in that situation, they can say, "Yeah, I need her. I need to call her to help me."
Sure. So we help a number of people in a number of situations and scenarios. So there's really not a situation we can't help you with. And there's not a situation that comes up that is so terribly unique that we can't use how we have helped someone in the past to help guide us in your certain situation. So whether it's your husband or wife has a business and you need to know how you can have an interest or earn your equity in that business because maybe you supported them personally while their business grew financially, or the other person stayed at home and you worked and you want to protect your financials that you grew while they stayed at home.
This is where it comes to marital property, right? Isn't that the big issue in a lot of this?
It is that and parenting time, because now child support, how much you pay is based upon how much time you have with your child, and generally speaking.
Is that right?
So now parenting time is a very, very hot issue at this point, because if you have more parenting time, you pay less in child support. So the change is 146 overnights. So a lot of people are wanting 146 overnights, not necessarily because they want to spend that time with their child, but they want to pay less in child support.
Unfortunately, that's probably true.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about the change here in Illinois about the no fault divorce.
Sure. So there used to be a number of ways, and I think a lot of people would wish those were back here. There used to be a number of ways to get divorced in Illinois, such as adultery, drunkenness, being arrested for a felony, so many ways. And now it's just simply no fault divorce. So you could be the worst person on earth, and that is not in any way going to impact the fact that you were somehow at fault for the divorce. So, and even I have people who want to put into documents, I want it known that he or she did X, Y, or Z. And it just, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do there because it's a no fault state now. So I understand that you want that, but that's just not really where we're headed here.
It's really changed everything.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's just simply very vanilla language. So as we don't ignite anybody's emotions, and it's different.
So sometimes it can appear to be a travesty of justice.
It can be, because there are certain cases where one party has been so wronged emotionally, financially, and the documents are silent. And so, for example, they could be saddled with a bunch of debt and through no fault of their own. And the documents don't read that way if some person were to go pull their documents. And so it is unfortunate.
Talk a little bit about debt after bankruptcy then.
Sure.
After divorce.
After divorce. So in your realm, so you have, for example, if you had parties who owed any amount of debt, $10,000, $20,000, that will be somehow allocated between the parties. And a lot of times you have credit cards where both names, one's a primary, one's a secondary on a card. There's $10,000 owed on the card. The parties have to pay it off. So obviously both parties' credit and social security numbers are tied to those credit cards. And if the person who's charged with paying that off, they don't pay it off, then your only recourse is to go back to the divorce if that creditor comes after you. And you could speak to whether that creditor would actually come after that person or not.
Well, absolutely they would. Mm-hmm. But talk a little then about mortgages, because that's a big one.
Right. So a lot of times,
and I hate to interrupt you, but they're usually accounted for somewhere in the divorce decree, and so everybody thinks that's the end of it.
Right. No, and it's not. Depending on on how things unfold, because a lot of times you have a client where one person gets awarded the house, they buy out the other for their marital interest in the home, and then they have a certain period of time to remove the other's name from the home. But there's a whole host of problems that can go on from the period of judgment to the period of time that they have to remove it, such as failure to pay the mortgage, or and so then the house has to sell. Then the house doesn't sell, and it goes into some type of foreclosures process, and there's a short sale, and then there's a deficiency, and then it's just so much needs to be considered, that not only in filing for divorce and entering your divorce decree, you definitely need to consult with an accountant or a bankruptcy attorney, or so that they fully understand what the ramifications of this document could possibly be.
Well, I've helped a lot of spouses that have gotten divorced, and then they were supposed to be off the mortgage, but they weren't, and then somebody misses mortgage payments,
Yes.
and then it affects their credit score.
Or a surprise lien.
Yes.
A surprise lien that the spouse had no idea about, that when they go to refinance or they're awarded the house and they're trying to sell it, the title is run, and there's a surprise lien. And there's language put into marital settlement agreements about the lien, but every time it happens, you're just surprised.
If the divorce decree calls for a sale and it's not sold, is that contempt?
So contempt is, one, you knew you had an obligation, and two, you could have completed the obligation, but you knowingly, voluntarily failed to do so. So it would depend on what the actions of that person were.
So if their credit score went bad and there's nothing they can't refi because their credit score is bad.
Yeah,
that happens after divorce.
Yeah. No, they just have to sell. If you can't do it, you need to sell, or you need to file to modify, but you couldn't, because it's a permanent language that's in there with respect to property, so you couldn't even modify, really. So you just basically have to sell it.
These are things that people don't think about. I think, again, as we talked about in the first segment, about the long term, how this document is going to guide you in the future, especially if you have children.
Right. Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's really something that, as attorneys, we do the best we can to let you flourish, and then you have to make good decisions to make sure that you keep on the right side of that divorce document.
How often do people coming back at, because then this happens?
A lot. People come back to us a lot because, and it's a lot on parenting issues. So it's somebody's earning more, so can I modify child support? The kids don't want to go over there. What can I do? I've moved, and now the parenting schedule doesn't make sense anymore. So people come back a lot. And there's a post decree. That's the name for it. Post decree. And you mark if it's pre-decree or post decree when you file. So there's a lot of post decree divorce work.
So you have an ongoing relationship.
Oh, absolutely.
I think people think that you get divorced, it's over, but it isn't.
No. And some people need more hand-holding than others. So some people need hand-holding for a while after the divorce, and then they come back again a few years. But everyone, for the most part, everyone comes back, and you help them along the way until those kids are out of college.
Well, I think that's something that people don't really think about, and that's why it's so important to have the right attorney.
Right. Have the right attorney, and have an attorney who is going to be consistent with you, so that the first time around you are not creating problems for the second time around when you have to go back, because inevitably you will likely have to go back about something.
And of course, if you were involved in writing the decree, then you'll understand what the intentions were. Maybe then some other third attorney that might come involved.
Right. And that's really important, because not only that, but the background from day one. So if the new attorney who comes on, they don't know the background, and they don't know why you were given this specific $10,000 and the 15 reasons why. And that can prove invaluable when you're arguing something in front of the court.
Well, again, I think it's when you get an attorney, almost doesn't make a difference what type of attorney. Usually it's not a one and done thing.
Right.
You're developing a relationship, and that's why it's so important to get the right attorney coming off the bat. And of course, that's why we wanted to have you on the show, so people would say, "Hey, that's the attorney I need," right? Because again, this is a long-term relationship. So give us your information again. How can people contact you?
Sure. Stephanie Olsson, Glasgow and Olsson. We're in Schaumburg. 847-577-8700 is our phone number. You can call us, and we'll be there for you.
Did you give us your web address?
Glasgow and Olsson.
.com. Okay, because it's not always .com now. So welcome again. If you're having tax problems, though, you should call Open Tax Advocates. at 312-664-6649. If you didn't get Attorney Olson's number, you call me, and I'll be happy to share it with you. We're going to take another short break. We're going to come back and interview. We're going to do a Constitution segment with Attorney Olson, and we'll be right back here on AM 560, The Answer. It's a kind of a new thing that I always do a Constitution segment. I had Tom do a couple Constitution segments when some Supreme Court case comes by. Gun rights, I always get and so he's done a couple. Zoom is good, like for that, because I can just pick people. But I much prefer this.
I agree.
Than having people on the phone. It doesn't sound good. It does, and you don't really. I mean, you kind of meet people,
right,
but you don't really meet.
Right, and it's added stress of will all of the technology work correctly without delays?
Jolly.
Well, and now, but
narrator, it never does.
My response to that is always, I love technology when it works.
Right.
And it works sometimes.
Sometimes. And the problem with the delay is it's kind of nice though now if you want to jump into an argument in court and there's a delay and you accidentally interrupt the judge. You're like, oh, sorry. There's a delay. I did not catch that delay.
I understand. Maybe we could talk a little bit about that in the next because I've been talking to a lot of attorneys about what their opinion is about Zoom hearings and things like that. Again, I think as you and I discussed a little bit earlier, it seems like most attorneys like it, most judges like it, and I don't know, and they kind of battled to get it going, and I don't think it's ever going to stop. But we'll talk about that.
Sure.
This is going to be the Constitution segment. I want you to we'll talk about these issues. You could talk about as I mentioned, I want to tie it to the Constitution. So how do cases then get to the Supreme Court? Because there's a conflict, right? So in one's here in Illinois, they figure one thing, in another state they do something else. But we'll mention this case, these two cases actually, because again, I think it's interesting. I think the Social Security matter is interesting in the primacy of federal law over state law, and both these cases talk a lot about that, about the federal, and they mentioned that one United States Supreme Court with the railroad.
Yes, that you read in law school.
No, that's here in this case.
I know.
Yeah, that you do read.
Yeah, you read it in law school. Right. It's the railroad case.
Okay, so I told you my kid's in law school, so he comes back. He's always got the cases. Hey, Dad, what about one thing about anybody in law school? They want to sue everybody. Yeah. Because now they're learning the wrongs, the law. Hey, that's against the law.
Yeah.
Like, we can sue you for that.
Yeah.
Can't really sue them for that.
Yeah.
So I just think it's funny. But we're gonna do the same intro, Josh. Same intro like it's the IRS Radio Hour.
So here's what I was going to do so you don't have to have the cross of the brands. I was just going to separate it at the bump. So you had the opening bump, then you had the Constitution bump. I'm going to cut it there.
Okay.
So you can play it. I'll just
okay.
Chop it up after that.
Whatever that means.
You'll have the appropriate intro bump music for
I get it.
Okay.
So you can switch it over. It'd be easier than recording another one. So I was thinking about this over the week because we did it with Niche
last week.
Good
idea because you guys usually do the teaser.
Yeah, and I thought and again I did it with Niche last week, and I thought we should because then I have this third segment I used to have for Jimmy, and so now it's open. So I thought it would work good this way, and it combines the two shows. So and again I can promote her, and that's what I want to do. That's what it's all about. So whenever you're ready.
You're listening to the Trust Radio Network on AM 560. The Answer. Step inside the minds of some of Chicago's most successful business leaders. Here's your host, attorney Stephen A. Leahy.
From 1788 until the end of time, we the people make a resolution to defend the Constitution.
We're not going to sit here and listen to you badmouth the United States of America.
So let liberty, justice, and freedom ring. It's the Constitution segment.
Our Constitution is a document in which we, the people, tell the government what it is allowed to do.
Sure, that's true. I agree with Ronnie Reagan 100%. I wish it were more true. But welcome back to the show. We're here with Joliet Josh, our technical producer. Our guest this week is Stephanie Olsson of Glasgow and Olsson. And I wanted to you and I were talking about a case about Constitution and how the law changes. You know, what cases go to the Supreme Court. So talk a little bit about that. And this is in these cases have to do with divorce. So talk a little bit about that.
Yes. So cases will go to the Supreme Court when, for purposes of these cases we're going to talk about, there's a disagreement. So among states, then it can go to the Supreme Court. So the cases you and I had been talking about were Cook and Mueller. And oftentimes in a divorce, you have one party who is a village employee or some type of state employee, a teacher, and so they are on the pension system. And when you're on the pension system, you don't have access to Social Security benefits. However, the other partner may not be part of that, and so they can get Social Security benefits. And where the issue arises is whether the person who does not receive Social Security benefits because they're ineligible, whether they should get a bigger piece of the pie to offset their Social Security benefits.
I found this case very interesting, because again, I like the way the Congress kind of protected themselves with the Social Security. They said, well, we could change it at any time.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Supreme Court has said, well, then it's not a personal asset. It's not an asset of yours because it can change.
Right. It's hypothetical.
Yeah.
We don't know if this will ever come to fruition, so you can't
and I think it's
barter
more
for
and more in doubt.
Right.
As time goes by.
Right. We're still here. We still have it. I don't know if 10 years from now. We've got it right now. Which would only cause further problems. I mean, imagine what would happen in court if you negotiated for Social Security benefits or something else and then it suddenly disappeared. What does that do to the remainder of the agreement? Because it might have been prefaced on you getting X, Y, or Z that no longer exists. So the backlog it could cause in courts is just incredible.
Absolutely. And again, I got to say that the Social Security is involved in so many different areas of the law because that's what people are going to get when they retire. Mm-hmm. And again, you look at it as it's a for sure thing, but the court says no.
The court says no. The court says no. We are going to ignore it, act as if it doesn't exist, even though it exists, and don't even consider it. Don't put it in writing in your documents and treat it as if it's not there.
Okay, so this is amazing to me. Again, as someone that helps people in bankruptcy, and that the Social Security comes into that also. And it's like we always wonder, why is that? Mm-hmm. How is it that Social Security is so treated so differently than any other thing?
Right. Well, and it's because of what we just said. We don't know that it's going to be there. And of course, the government doesn't want to create a lawsuit for itself of putting it out there that we're guaranteeing you this money and then all of a sudden we can't fund this money. So it's all about protection of the rules that are made and what the government has to do or doesn't have to do.
Well, I think that I wanted to mention, talk a little bit about the Supreme Court case that just was denied.
Sure. So the U.S. Supreme Court denied hearing this particular issue. And obviously no reason was given for why it was denied. However, there was a trial court case and the trial court said, yes, we should figure this out and give an offset. That went up to the appellate court, in Illinois. The appellate court said, no, there is no offset to be given. That is incorrect. Do the arrangement as if it doesn't exist. So then a second case a number of years later, they tried to make the same argument. And the court at the trial level said, absolutely not. This is an issue that is done. We have decided this. We do not participate in anything with respect to Social Security. That is a federal law issue. This is a state court. And now states in the United States are divided on it. So there's 12 that say no. This is not something that should be considered, and 6 that say yes, this is something that be considered.
It's, some of these courts, they call themselves court of equity, right? To do justice. And then they look at that number and say, wait a minute, one party's walking away with a lot better deal than the other party.
Right. Which, I mean, it's as a settlement, everybody should be walking away not happy, right? If it's a good settlement.
Well, unfortunately, in a divorce, that's usually the case, isn't
no
it?
matter what, no one's going to be happy.
So give us your phone number again so people can contact you.
847-577-8700.
So remember now, the Constitution rules all areas of the law, and so that's why we wanted to talk about it in this segment. So now remember, Open Tax Advocates helps business professionals solve IRS problems. If you're facing IRS problems, you should give them a call, 312-664-6649. And when I say them, I mean me. Okay, you go to chicagotaxteam.com. We're going to take another break. Join us at the other side here on AM 560, The Answer. Name in one of the slides.
You didn't even get hung up by me not playing the bump out. Look at you. Look at you.
I'm a professional.
It feels like you've been doing this for years.
I got to change it because I noticed it. I can't see very well.
Oh.
And so, if you look here, what I'm doing is very small. It's like I can never see what's going on. So now I have to find out where I misspelled your name. And I probably, only one of them. That's good. Of course, the one I was using because the other one I couldn't use because I had the wrong phone number. I wish I had help.
Yeah, you need an assistant.
I've tried. I've always just decided it's easier if I just do it.
Right.
But
right.
Now my youngest just started working with me and I do a lot of I do podcasts. Most every day I do a podcast, and he's been taking them and splicing and dicing them. We're going to do this with yours. He'll slice and dice it up, give you some of the feed so you can use it for your own marketing if you like.
Perfect.
And that's what he's doing. But again, sometimes it's like, I'll just.
Yeah, I will take over.
I'll do it. And I remember I've had guests here when Jimmy, my nephew, used to be here a lot. People come in and they see me doing it. I always thought Jim did this stuff. I wish he did.
Yeah.
But he's like, well, you never let me do it. And that's true too.
Yeah.
It's my hobby, not yours. Okay, so this is the frequently asked question, but I want to talk. I'm gonna talk a little bit about Zoom. Okay, and then if you have some questions, then we will get into that. Okay, if we have time. This again, This is only 7 minutes, as you saw that 6 minutes go by. 10 minutes takes some time. 6 minutes goes by quickly. This is 7 minutes, goes by quickly. The next segment's like 4 minutes. That goes by. It's like we don't even have a fifth segment, but it goes by very quickly. So but let's go, Josh, whenever you're ready. I corrected her name, so it should be good. Let me see if I can.
Now, back to the Trust Radio Network on AM 560. Hear from Chicago's business leaders. Learn who they are, what they do, and why they do it. Once again, here's attorney Stephen A. Leahy.
Hey, welcome back. This is the Trust Radio Network on AM 560, The Answer. We're here with Joliet Josh. Can't do it without him. And our guest this week is attorney Stephanie Olsson. Attorney Olsson works with families who are having some trouble.
Yes, so to speak.
For lack of a better term. But I wanted to, I know you go, this is a court matter, right? So you go to court.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about Zoom and how's that been working for you?
Zoom is interesting. It's good for the clients because it saves the clients money because they don't have travel expenses. So it's really great for the clients in that matter.
Also waiting around, right? Because
waiting around.
There's not a lot of waiting around
for
judges.
There's not much waiting around anymore, especially how DuPage does it. They're in either 5 or 10 minute increments, and they
is that right?
They breeze through those. So there's hardly any waiting around in DuPage. But Zoom's a different animal. It's good and bad, I think, because it doesn't allow you to nurture the relationships with the bar. And so you're going to have to do that in other ways. So that's one huge downfall.
That is one of the biggest things is that I've been on Zoom calls and I see people that I know and like, hey, nice to see you again. But you're right. Whatever area of the law you practice, right, when you go to court, there's other people that are there too, and you see the same people often, right?
You do.
Now, in my area of the work, I create a relationship with creditor attorneys, not too many debtor attorneys, because we don't work together, right? But when you're the other side, you work with them. You have to develop a relationship. The other side, you do see them. Actually, I have a trusted professional. Her name is Ray Kaplan. I met her. She's a debtor's attorney. I met her in court. So it's a big matter.
It is because it helps you learn who you can trust. It helps you negotiate a case. It helps you learn where the judge's mind is at when you see a judge reason with different issues that you don't have that morning. I think it's a really big loss to not have that in-person ability to see all of that and to get those relationships.
Well, then talk about the pluses, because there's pluses.
Yeah, there are pluses. The pluses is that you can be more candid. Because it's typically just the attorney and the parties for that side. If it's a real substantive issue, you're not making your argument in front of a number of people, so you can be a bit more candid. And so sometimes that helps you get your point across a little bit better. It also, there's some small talk that goes on and some laughter about, the people who are in Florida and doing Zoom from Florida. So, I mean, there's some good things about that. And it also offers such flexibility. As attorneys, you're limited to, if you're only an Illinois attorney, you are limited to being in Illinois. So it offers a lot of opportunity to travel that you wouldn't, on a personal level, that you wouldn't normally have.
I agree with that. And, we were talking before the show, and I did some cases in Will County. I'm not one of these big box outfits who have a ton of cases. So I have one or two cases go to a courthouse in Will County. It takes me all day.
Right. You can be so much more efficient with your time. You can be in 3 courthouses at once. And it's so much more efficient.
As opposed to 3 courtrooms at once.
Right.
Because we've all done that.
Right. At Daly Center, where you have to take different elevators. I do not miss that at all.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. So I did a lot of foreclosure work, so it's all on the 20th floor, but still you're running from one to the other, and then you just miss it. Oh,
right.
Your Honor, I'm here.
Right, and then you have to wait another 25 minutes. So, and that's also what's nice for the client is, you're there when that case is called, you're ready to go, and so for the most part is everybody else.
So, give me your opinion about the future for Zoom.
I think the future of Zoom for divorce is, I think it stays. I think you have some type of in-person court events for where you have a lot of paperwork, where it would be too time consuming to complete showing exhibits. I think that's really when you're in person with divorce. But I think if it's an agreed status state, I think it'll likely remain on some level via Zoom.
It also makes it good for clients because they can go to Zoom, right?
Right. They can be at work. I've seen people in their offices, and
so they're more likely to be able to attend, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And see what happens.
Absolutely. Which then again saves the time of you explaining it all. So it's really, I don't see how clients are not benefiting greatly from Zoom.
I agree with that. And so prediction. Give me a prediction. Is it going to continue, or is it going to, or are we going to go back to courthouses?
I'm going hybrid.
Very good answer. What a attorney answer that is.
Well,
it's probably
hybrid.
True, though. It's probably true.
Yeah.
Again, I think the general matters, I think they're going to stay on Zoom.
Yeah, I agree. And think about the cost that it saves the courthouses. Absolutely. To not have all those people running through, the less staff, less sheriff. I mean, they can allocate those sheriffs to 26th Street or allocate them.
I don't think people understand how much attorneys' courtroom work is ministerial.
Mm-hmm.
It goes very administrative.
Completely.
So I think that's going to stay.
Completely. And also, it used to be an issue getting orders sometimes with respect to some courtrooms, and now they just suddenly appear. So it seems like the clerk's office has figured out how to get everybody their orders. So that leads me to believe that it's here to stay.
No more carbon paper. Okay.
Right,
So,
right.
Tell us where people can get in touch with you. Only attorneys know what I'm talking about.
Glasgow and Olsson, 847-577-8700.
So thanks so much for that. Now, again, if you're having problems with your tax man, then you need to call Open Tax Advocates. And they sponsor this show at 312-664-6649. You can go to the web at chicagotaxteam.com. Now we're gonna finish up the show here at the other side. So go listen to the station, our station sponsors, and come back here on AM 560. The Answer. My nephew Jim used to do the intros and outros too, so I'm still getting used to it.
You have a very good radio, big, bold. Here, come back.
So I'm still getting used to it. So he, I try to remember. What did he say? How did he say? Sometimes I forget. When we had banter going back, he'd say something. I said, "No, I'm supposed to say both sides." I forget to say both sides.
Right.
I get used to it. I don't need you, Jim. He still watches. I'm sure he's probably watching now. That's right. I don't need you. Okay, so the last segment, very quick. Just gonna finish up what you do again. Again, your contact information, how people can find you, and then it'll close again. 4 minutes goes very quickly.
Okay.
And now, back to the Trust Radio Network on AM 560. The Answer. Real conversations with some of the most trusted professionals in Chicagoland. Once again, here's attorney Stephen A. Leahy.
Welcome back. This is the Trust Radio Network on AM 560. The Answer, where we introduce you to trusted professionals. We're here with Joliet Josh, who's our technical producer, and our trusted professional this week has been Stephanie Olsson of Glasgow and Olsson, and she helps people with family matters. So thanks so much for joining us here today.
Thanks.
And thanks for sharing all your great wisdom about this. So we don't have a lot of time in this segment, but tell us where people can get in touch with you. Who should contact you?
Sure. Anyone who has a legal question should contact us.
That's good.
Yeah. Because if we can't help you, we know somebody who can. So GlasgowOlsson.com is our website. Our phone number is 847-577-8700. And we can help steer you in the right direction, or we can help you ourselves.
This is what makes you a trusted professional and Attorney Glasgow. Because I like when not all attorneys will answer questions right when they call. And I get this. I just had a guy call me from North Carolina, asking me questions. He only owed $6,000. He can't hire me to help him with that. But I gave him a lot of information, and that's why I encourage people to call. So that's why you're a trusted professional. If you have a question, call Attorney Olsson. She'll be happy to answer your question for you. And if she can't help you, she can tell you who can help you. And a lot of times you won't need to hire a lawyer, but you're looking for somebody to give you some information or send you in the right direction. And again, that's why you're a trusted professional.
Yes.
So talk a little bit on our last minute. Tell us a little bit more about again, what kind of, do you help people, men, women? Do you help everybody?
We help everybody. So we help women, everyone from the stay-at-home mom to the corporate woman who has earned her right in her income and gotten an estate. And we help the man who may have had a great business and the business went south and he's trying to rebuild his income stream, to the man who is a consultant and traveled and wants to make sure that he still sees his kids even though his travel schedule is difficult.
That is the difficult part about your job. It's the kids involved. And that's the meaning of life, in my opinion. And so that makes it all the more important to get the right attorney to help you keep that relationship with your children.
Right. And it's so difficult and it's so sad, but kids are resilient and the kids will get through it just as the parent will get through it.
Yeah. So again, if you're give us your contact information once again, so people can contact you if they have a question or if they think that they need a lawyer to help them with this.
Our firm's Glasgow and Olsson, 847-577-8700, GlasgowOlsson.com.
Well, we had a great time today. And again, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Attorney Glasgow has recommended you as a trusted professional, and he was right.
Oh, thank you.
So thanks so much. Thanks so much for joining us here today. I really appreciate your time. We're going to have you back at another time to talk about more about this, about family matters, because this is such an important area of the law. So remember now, this show is sponsored by Open Tax Advocates. Open Tax Advocates helps business professionals solve IRS problems. So if you have an IRS problem, then you should give us a call at 312-664-6649. Again, that number is 312-664-6649. You can visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. Now remember, you can join us every Saturday at 7 o'clock here on AM 560, The Answer.
Thank you for tuning in to the Trust Radio Network on AM 560, The Answer. Be sure to join attorney Stephen A. Leahy again next Saturday night at 7 as he engages in conversations with some of the most trusted professionals in all of Chicagoland. Enjoy interviews with local professionals dedicated to providing the very best products and services. Learn who they are, what they do, and most importantly, why they do it. Take a step inside the minds of some of Chicagoland's most successful business leaders and learn all there is to know on the Trust Radio Network with your host, attorney Stephen A. Leahy. See you right back here next Saturday night at 7 on AM 560, The Answer.
I'm going to have to do a better job of checking my slides. Maybe I put them in too many places because then I got to hunt it down where the error is.
Like my files when I prepare for trial.
Or stop making errors. How's that?
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. So, I would love to get a picture with you, but I forgot my phone.
You can use my phone.
Can I? Yeah. Can I get you to take it? And then you can text message me because I always like to get no, I want to get it out in front.
Perfect.
Right by the AM 560 sign. And if we can get Joliet Josh, to take a picture for us, can we do that, Joliet? Thanks so much. I hate to impose on him, but I don't have Jimmy anymore. Jimmy used to do that. A lot of things Jimmy used to do. So, okay, so let me do one thing. Before we do that, I have to go and change the destination. Of where it's being. We are signing off the Trust Radio Network, and then I'll sign on to IRS Radio Hour. So here we go. We're signing off. And now I'm signing on. Okay, it's the IRS Radio Hour. We're going to be back. We're going to start the show, the IRS Radio Hour, in about 15 minutes. And so join us then.
Oh, yeah. No, no problem.
You have a hard time finding the place? Got the hat thing going today.
Bad hair day. It's been a rough morning, man.
For me too. In that I got up and went to a Chamber of Commerce networking event.
That sounds like it should be a little interesting.
Yeah, but it's still early.
Oh, yeah. Schmoozing early is never easy.
7:30 in the morning and then and drinking lots of coffee.
Oh, man.
So
the crash is going to be epic.
well, let's hope it happens after the show.
Yeah.
But may not. So I want to go back on here. People can hear us. So I wanted to thank Attorney Olsson for being here. I misspelled her name here on this. So what happens is when you misspell it somewhere and then you cut and paste, then it's everywhere. It's like a database. When you get the address wrong, everything you do, it's everywhere. And so I apologize to her. I got their number wrong someplace, and I misspelled their name in one place, but not every place. Some places I got it right. I have to do a better job. It's that I'm blind, people. I'm almost 60 years old now. I never thought I'd say something like that, but it's true. I'm almost 60 years old, and on this editing on the Switch software that I use, it's it's so small, the print, I can hardly see it, even with glasses. But if I try to do it without, actually, I can't really even try to do it without glasses. So we're going to go and we're going to do the IRS Radio Hour. I thought it was a very good show. I want to thank Attorney Glasgow for recommending his partner, Stephanie Olsson. She shared a lot of great information with us, and I appreciate that. Let me just make sure I have the right camera on the right scene, if for lack of a better word, I guess. Yeah, there it is. Because I'm all by myself now, and I'm the only one on the camera. Let's see how that's going to work. Where is it? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I think on the frequently asked questions segment, I'm going to talk about the child credit, and then on the blog segment, I am going to talk about after the audit, what happens after an audit. So I'm going to write that down here. So I got to get rid of this one. Go to this one, and so I don't have. This one will be after the audit. And the other one I said is going to be about the child. Told you I can't see it, so child tax credit. Checks. Talked to some guy this morning. Yeah, I went to the bank. I had $300 in the bank. I didn't know where it came from. I don't even have a kid under 6. I got a tweet yesterday from someone too. I don't even qualify, and they sent me $750, or I forget what he said, but it didn't add up. I don't know how he got that much money. So then he asked me, what will happen? Will I have to pay a interest, and will I get fined if they give me money and I don't give it back right away? And the answer is, I had to look it up. No, they won't. All you'll have to do is pay the tax at the end of the year, and so it's like an interest-free loan. The problem will arise is if you don't have the money to pay the tax at the end of the year, then you're going to pay penalties and interest on that money from that day forward. But until then, if you have the money, it's a tax-free loan. The government is very generous these days. Because they like us. That's why. Let me see if I can. I moved this out. Attorney Leahy. That's it. Everything will be right as rain. Yeah, so I'm not much of a networker. It's kind of the small talk. What do you do? How you do it? Although it's nice to meet people. The difference of this one was it's in my own neighborhood. So, I'm trying to just meet people that are, and I don't have to really meet them. Although I didn't know anybody there. It's still my neighborhood. I've been there for 20 years. And so I felt different than going like a chamber of commerce at River North or something, just because I worked there, And I'm not really going to get business. I don't think anybody's going to give me business. It's not really about that. Just try to help, because the more now I'm at Bannockburn Green, as you might remember, and they mentioned it's not official yet, but they're going to do a parking lot movie, drive-in movie in their parking lot on an evening. So I think that's a great idea. Try to get the community involved to come to the shopping center more often and think of it as a place, to go, as a destination. Last week, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, they had a juggler. I'm looking out my window, and there's a guy on a unicycle juggling. I'm like, what is going on here? And he kept riding past, and I said, "What are you doing?" He says, "Well, somebody hired me." He didn't know who, but I know it was a management company. And they wanted me to go from this store to that store, keep going back and forth. And he was there for like 4 or 5, 6 hours, And so it was interesting. It was kind of odd again when I looked out and I saw the guy on a unicycle. I thought it might be just a hobby, but it wasn't. He was there. He was working. Okay. We're going to do the show whenever Josh is ready. And remember, we're not doing the third segment.
Pursuant to Internal Revenue Service guidance, be advised that any federal tax advice contained in this program is not intended to be used, and it cannot be used by any person or entity for the purpose of avoiding any tax penalties that may be imposed by the Internal Revenue Service or any other U.S. federal taxing authority or agency, or promoting, marketing, or recommending to another party any transaction or matter addressed in this show. The opinions expressed by the host and the guests are their own and may not be used as authoritative advice. Any use of this material without the written consent of the host is strictly prohibited.
You're listening to the IRS Radio Hour with your host, Attorney Stephen Leahy, on AM 560, The Answer. Tune in every week at 5 for an informative discussion about IRS obligations, credit card debt, mortgage default, collection activity, and how to resolve these legal issues using tax resolution, debt settlement, mortgage loan modification, foreclosure defense, and bankruptcy. Your host is Stephen Leahy, and the principal at Open Tax Resolutions and the law office of Stephen Leahy, PC. Stephen is the author of Deal with Your IRS Problems Today. IRS and debt issues are serious, but there is help. There are resolutions. So get ready and take notes during the IRS Radio Hour. And now, here's your host, Attorney Stephen Leahy.
Hello, Chicago Patriots. We are coming to you from Studio C here at AM 560, The Answer. This is the IRS Radio Hour.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Now remember that the IRS Radio Hour is brought to you by the law office of Stephen A. Leahy, PC, that's me, and Opum Tax Advocates.
God bless you, Opum Tax Resolution.
Opum Tax Advocates helps business professionals solve IRS problems. We help them with audits and levies, liens and garnishments, collections, unfiled tax returns, and payroll tax issues. But we also help people with mortgage foreclosures, loan modifications, bankruptcy, and other debt-related issues. So if you have any of these problems, or if you know someone who does, you should give us a call at 312-664-6649. Again, it's 312-664-6649. You can visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. I want to welcome our technical producer, Joliet Josh, and we're going to go right into the show. review and comment on the news. It's the news roundup. See, I always forget to say the news roundup first. And review and comment on the news. So that's what, as most weeks, lots of news out there. And I'm always confused of what I want to talk about most. It's usually what's going on, that on Friday, because that's when we record the show. But I try to remember what goes on in the week, but you get so tied up. So the big thing here, a couple big things, is Arizona and the vote count. Georgia, another big event. Philadelphia, another big one, because Joe Biden went to Philadelphia with the speech about the election, saying it's all good. What are you talking about? This is the most scrutinized election ever. I got the most scrutinized election ever. I'm the most valid president of all time. And I think it's he's singing past the graveyard, as they say, because they're talking about doing an audit in Philadelphia as they did in Arizona. I watched some of the Senate hearing yesterday from Arizona, and they as they were saying, we're not saying that there's any fraud. We're not saying anybody did anything wrong, but we are saying the numbers don't add up, that the numbers are wrong. And no matter what they are, the other side is going to say, hey, there's just a small problem. A couple votes wrong. I don't know if you saw the video, but there's videos of them comparing different ballots, and they're exactly the same, and and they've been counted more than once because they have the numbers all. This is what an audit is about, right? You go to a bank and they audit a bank, even if they don't suspect anything's wrong. You should audit the bank occasionally to make sure that there's nothing wrong, right? You don't know unless you look, and we can't just say our election system is fine when in fact people are saying it's not fine. Maybe it is fine, but if enough people are saying it isn't, then we need to convince them that it is. And maybe if it isn't, then we need to fix it. And that just makes sense. It makes sense to everyone. I don't know if you saw this also, is that Oklahoma is also talking about doing an audit. And there's no question, I think Trump won there by 30 points or something like that. But it's not about that, who won, who lost. It's about, are the numbers right? Again, as a Chicagoan, we've always joked since I've been a kid about the voting, and and everybody knows the old Chicago saying, right? Vote early, vote often. And is that just a joke, or does that really happen? I think you have to say it really happens, that people actually vote more than once, and there's corruption in the system. And anybody who's anybody should try to remove that corruption in the system. Now, we had the attorney for McAfee on the Trust Radio Network. Also, he was on our Irs Radio Hour on the Constitution segment, Nishay Sanin. And I watched a lot of stuff about McAfee. And what I learned is this is a guy who is really at the cutting edge of the blockchain. And one thing that the blockchain can do, we can use it in our voting systems. And why aren't we using the latest technology in the voting systems? We all know that the electronic machines, that they can be manipulated, whether they were or not, that's a different question. We know that they can be. We know that it's kind of a mystery what goes on when someone votes, what happens to it. Nobody knows. But with a blockchain technology, you could be sure of exactly who voted and that they only voted once. It would be, and again, you listen to McAfee, he was really on the cutting edge of not only the blockchain, but cryptocurrency also. Another thing that he talked about that I was surprised about, because I always thought that these cryptocurrencies were battling for supremacy. That one, Bitcoin is fighting with these others to see which one is going to prevail. But McAfee kind of enlightened me in saying that that these cryptocurrencies are going to be infinite amount of numbers, and that he always likened it to a operating system of a computer, that the operating system runs your printer, it runs your modem, and that we need a central location. So no matter what cryptocurrency you have, it can be created. So a company, for instance, can have their own cryptocurrency, and then you don't need these exchanges to convert it from one value to the other. And I never thought about that. That's something I don't think a lot of people have thought about that. But that's this blockchain technology that exactly it's and it can be audited and confirmed. And that's what we need for our voting system. And I don't know why anybody would be against that. Why would you be against wanting to make sure that the elections were fair and honest? And an audit simply says that it was or it wasn't. And if it wasn't, let's get it to be fair and honest. Because there's talk about overturning the election and calling back the electors. And I don't think that's going to happen. But we should be aware of what went wrong and make sure it doesn't happen again. How about just that? And that would be enough. Again, I always was of the mind that there was corruption and some problems with the election. Why did I think that? Because I stayed up all night and I watched it. I watched in Detroit as they put the cardboard over the window so nobody can see in. I watched it when the U.S. Postal guy with the truck said he had a bunch of Philadelphia ballots coming from New York. So I've seen this stuff, and so I watched it when the people in Georgia were running the same, took them out from underneath the table and ran the same ballots multiple times. So I saw that. That wasn't some figment of my imagination. That wasn't like, oh, nothing happened and I just saw something that wasn't there. These things shouldn't happen, and if they did happen, people should be held responsible, and that's the problem. And again, whether it turns over the election, it won't turn over the election. The election's been certified. But we shouldn't just look the other way and say, oh, that's just the way it works. Here, Chicago's corrupt. That's just the way it is, and let's just keep it corrupt and sometimes people take pride in the corruption of their city. Well, we shouldn't do that. Right, we should fight the corruption. We should try to, and from whatever side. And I'm not one to say that the Republicans are above this, because they're not. And I don't really consider myself a Republican. Although in Chicago or in Illinois, I generally vote Republican. Not because I'm a Republican. Because I got nowhere else to go. And I am one to think that you should vote in every election and try to make your voice heard. I'm not one to vote for a third-party candidate because I think it's a waste of vote. But because we're a two-party system, we have to recognize that. But we need a system that works, that can and should be audited. And that's one thing I'm going to go back to the blockchain. Because if you use the blockchain, you can audit the election in hours, not weeks, not months, not years. We can do it right every time. And that's the way it should be. We should be able to verify it and with impunity, all right? So we should be able to do that. So anyway, I hope you agree with me because it's my show. And so again, if you're having tax problems, call Open Tax Advocates, 312-664-6649. Again, it's 312-664-6649. We're going to talk on the blog segment about what to do after an IRS audit. So join us after this short break here on AM 560, The Answer. Some of you might notice that say, hey, Attorney Leahy, why don't you ever misspell your own name? Because my slides are all right. They are. But they're the same ones I use every week. That's why. They probably were misspelled at one time. I might have misspelled attorney.
I was laughing as you were talking to Stephanie about the technology and stuff, and when you're doing it all by yourself, when you got so many different things, dude, it's so easy to forget one because it's usually the benign things that oh, I got that. I nailed that one. And you forgot it because you didn't even think about it.
Absolutely true. And now on my at home, I made a checklist because, again, it's routine, but there's so many things that you have to check that it becomes, it's easy to overlook. And then after the show starts, so I was telling you this last week. I have the teleprompter and I have a monitor in the teleprompter so I can look at the camera. And I'm going to do this here. I think I'm going to try to put it next to the camera. Oh, maybe I should do that now. But so I'm not looking down. I can look at it. But sometimes when I start the show and I forgot to put the monitor on, and then it's like then it really throws me off because I can't tell everybody. They don't know that the monitor's not there.
I've had it, so I got a static screen before I start filming, and I've had it where I've hit the button and everything and got to talking, and the static screen never went away, and I'm just talking to myself. All the energy that I had is deflated. Oh man!
And you can't recreate that.
No, you get that first one is the best. You're like, yeah, oh. And then in the back of your head, you're like, what else did I forget?
I'll try to redo that. No, it doesn't. You can't redo it. That's why I always say on the show in between the segments, sometimes the best thing is I got to stop myself from doing in between segments. Get it on the show. Get it on the show. Because again, you can't recreate it. Oh, that's good. Let's do that on the show. No, you'll forget it. My kids were looking at, because I mentioned that Nisha Sanin was our guest last week, and we talked about McAfee, and we were right at the end of a segment, and I said, we'll return to this right at the end of at the other side, but we never returned to it because we probably talked about it in between segments. So, but Attorney Sanin is going to be on the show again in 2 weeks, I think, and we're going to talk. I'm going to make sure that we talk more about McAfee. Why? I got more hits than ever on it. And again, I'm not one that gets thousands and thousands of hits. I get 100 hits. I'm kind of happy with it. And so we had 80 some, 100 some on a couple of these segments, and lots of comments. So people are commenting about McAfee, and because he's an interesting dude. He was. I've been watching a lot about. Again, I knew of him. I've heard of him. I probably heard him say things before, but I never really followed him. And so I've been watching some of these interviews that he did. He was quite a character. But again, he knew more about, I didn't realize how deep he was in crypto, and blockchain. And of course that all works right into what he was doing, right? About computer security and how all that works and how computers can verify things. And so it makes sense. And that's why I'm more convinced than ever after watching many of his two things. I'm more convinced that he didn't kill himself, because he was like, hey, you can be happy in prison. Nothing wrong with prison. You can be happy anywhere you are. He said, and I've been to prison many times, and it's fine. He said, and I don't think you're living unless you go into prison. That's what he was saying.
He also wasn't in the everyday prison either. He wasn't going to he wasn't on 39th and Cal.
No.
Or down in Statesville.
Yeah,
he was in Fed joints.
Yeah. So, but I understand that, and again, so first and secondly, I'm convinced he's got a boatload of crypto somewhere.
Somebody's cashing in.
Because he was broke. I saw this article of this guy who just is going to come out with a book about McAfee. I was writing a book and he never paid me. And one guy says, oh, a writer never got paid, and that's proof he doesn't have any money. It's like, no, I don't think that's proof. So, of course, he's going to say, as the guy said, you go to Hollywood, all these producers come out and say they can't pay the writers, and they live in a $10 million home, but they can't afford to pay the writer. I'm broke. I'm cash poor. Yeah, it's all going in your $10 million home. Well, of course you're cash poor. But he railed against government interference and government, the snooping and asking him about his personal life, and my own opinion is, here's a guy that wasn't even in America anymore. If he was cheating on his taxes when he wasn't even in America, I mean, I know I get it. I'm a tax guy. I'm a tax attorney. I understand it's a crime, but it's not something you should hunt the guy down to. This is the whole thing again. It's the government's ability to hunt people down that they want to target. I meant to talk about that in the first segment too, about what's her name, whatever her name is, talking about acknowledging that they are alerting Facebook and Twitter to what information should be censored. Okay, so this whole argument that, oh no, these are private companies, they can't violate your First Amendment rights because they're private companies and only the government can violate your First Amendment right. If the government is telling them that they should who they should censor, and then they do it, then it's to me it's a government action, and it totally supports Trump's lawsuit that he has going. And I've read a lot about that a lot of people are saying that like the worst thing that they could have done is acknowledge that they're telling these social media companies what to censor. And let's face it, it's not misinformation. It's just information they don't want you to know. It was misinformation that the Wuhan lab was a possible source. They wouldn't even let you talk about it. It was misinformation that the hydroxychloroquine or whatever it is, was a cheap alternative to treat COVID, but they wouldn't let you say that. It was that you couldn't, that very few people, and I think it's pretty established that nobody has ever caught COVID outside. At least that's my understanding, that there's never been a case confirmed that was caught, commuted outside. But they would, so again, all these things that they told us that they was misinformation turned out to be true. It was also misinformation that Hunter Biden, the laptop was not his, and so they wouldn't let that on. And I heard someone talk about this, and I thought it was amazing. You say, just imagine this. Imagine that Don Jr. had a laptop that had all this pornography and drug use and admissions to corruption and all that. Where would that be? You think Twitter would have said, "Oh, that hasn't been established. We can't let you save that." And this is what really is getting me now, because it's more than just not allowing you to post something on your social media. They are censoring messages, direct messages, and Facebook's on this What's Up. I didn't know this. I don't know if you know this, Josh, but What's Up is the text messaging around the world. WhatsApp, whatever. But that's around in Europe. That's what they use. We use texting. They use WhatsApp, and they are censoring what you send to your friends. So that's not even misinformation. It's like, well, we can't let you share with your private friends, because this is what we're afraid of. This is what we should all be against. This is what is the beginning of the end, in my opinion. And another thing I didn't talk about is the masks and everything again, and COVID coming, and all these sports now. Everybody's fully vaccinated, but they're still getting COVID, and they're still canceling them, and they're still what's going on. And we talked about it last time in Japan. The Olympics are going to start. Nobody's going to be there, and I don't know if any athletes are going to be there, given what's happening. It's amazing. It's amazing. Okay, so let's start the segment.
Welcome back to the IRS Radio Hour with attorney Stephen Leahy. Stephen has helped hundreds of Chicagoans recover from financial disaster, and he wants to help you and your family. There are resolutions, and you will hear about all those resolutions during today's informative discussion on the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560 The Answer. Now, here's your host, attorney Stephen Leahy.
Welcome back to the program. I want to welcome you here with our technical producer, Joliet Josh. Now remember, this show is not only the only show we do. We also do the Trust Radio Network. The Trust Radio Network is heard every Saturday right here on AM 560 The Answer at 7 o'clock. And we interview trusted professionals, people you can trust when you're making important decisions. Now, last night, you should have heard our friend, attorney Nishay Sanin, and we talked about McAfee and him helping people in federal criminal court. Next week, we're going to talk to attorney Stephanie Olsson. She's a family law attorney with Glasgow and Olsson. Yes, I understand you recognize that Glasgow, because Thomas Glasgow's been on this show on many occasions. He's an old hand here, and Stephanie Olsson, attorney Olsson, is his partner, and she shared a lot of great information with us And so you can hear her next Saturday at 7 o'clock on the Trust Radio Network. You can visit us. We record every Friday afternoon. Go to watchtalkradio.com or catch us on one of the Facebook pages, because we got a number of Facebook pages, and on YouTube. We're there too. So we try to be as many places so you can find us, so you can watch us every Friday afternoon on watchtalkradio.com again, and Facebook. So let's do the next segment.
It's the blog segment. The blog. The blog.
Okay, this is the blog segment. We're going to talk about the audits. That's right. See, this is the audit.
So we're going to talk about what to do after an audit, right? Because a lot of people get audited. There's a couple different types of audits, right? A lot of times they're just what they call paper audits. The IRS will contact you and say, "Hey, you said that you got all these deductions, for instance, charitable deductions. Can you prove it? Do you have any documents to show that this is a valid?" Because if anybody's going to lie, that's what they're going to lie, right? They're going to say, "Hey, I had a bunch of I gave away $100,000 in charitable deductions. I didn't have any income. I gave it all away. Can you prove it?" The answer is probably no. You can't prove it. But again, this is a paper audit, and they're going to ask you for documents. And if you can supply the documents, then to verify what you said, well, then you've overcome the audit, and they're probably not going to change anything. Or maybe they're still going to change them, but maybe not to the extent that they would by just disallowing everything, right? And so, but then there's another type of audit, and that's an in-person audit, where the auditor either comes by your house or your business, or invites you to go to the IRS office. That does happen. And then they interview you there. Actually, you're supposed to bring all your documents there, and then you sit there while they go through everything. Now, audits are difficult and timely. I mean, time-consuming, right? They take a long time to go through everything, paperwork, and then your tax return. Try to go through your tax return if you have a lot of deductions, and go line by line and try to figure this all out, right? Then once the IRS comes up and says, "Uh-oh, you owe," right, then what do? Well, you can ask for a reconsideration and say, "Hey, I think you were wrong. So would you reconsider?" Now, they don't have to reconsider, and then they'll send you what they call they'll call it a 12203 form, a 12203 form. We call it, in my office, we call that the 90-day letter. Why is it a 90-day letter? Well, because you have 90 days, and they got a big stamp on it, what day they sent it to you, and then there's another big stamp. This is the day, the 90th day, and you have to file a tax court case before that 90th day. And if you do that, then it's going to go to tax court, and you have an opportunity to appeal. Now, just because you file a tax court case doesn't mean it's going to go to trial, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to get an opportunity to talk to another appeals officer. And these appeals officers are a little bit more savvy, informed, less personal. They're distance from you. Sometimes the auditor that you talk to. Now, I failed to tell you this, but when you're being audited in person, you can influence the auditor and say, maybe you could do this. Or now, most people won't. Most people will, take a back seat and kind of keep your mouth shut and won't let them do their business because you're afraid of them, and rightfully so. And sometimes I've had a lot of people tell me, "Oh, the auditor was really, really nice," until I got the audit, and then it wasn't so nice. Okay, so that does happen. Okay, but sometimes when you file a tax court case, it goes to before it goes to the lawyers, it goes to an appeals officer, and that appeals officer will give you an opportunity to argue each and every line. When you get this 90-day letter, what's on this 90-day letter is first it'll tell you exactly what they say is the deficiency, right? It's called a notice of deficiency, the 90-day letter. And on this notice of deficiency says, and they usually do 3 years, so you're usually going to get, because that's what the statute of limitations is and how long the IRS can go back. They can go back 3 years. So almost always they go back 3 years, but not always. I have a case now, it's only 2 years. They only did 2 years. Sometimes if they find a lot wrong, they'll go back and then they'll go forward too, because a lot of times it was a couple years ago, and then now they're going to do this year's and next year's too, and they're going to audit you to make sure that you've changed. Okay, if they said, hey, this was wrong, and you continue doing it, you're going to get audited again, and that's very likely, right? And so if they catch you doing something, or if they accuse you of doing something, and they say, don't, this isn't deductible, but yet you keep deducting it going forward, you're almost assured that you're going to get another audit. And that's very common. But when you get the audit, again, what will happen is every line in this form, the notice of deficiency, they go through every line. This one we say, this is how much you owe because of this. This is how much you owe because of this change. This is how much you owe because of this change. They call it an adjustment. We adjusted for you. It could go down, but it usually goes up. It usually goes up. So but it's an adjustment. And then after that page, there's a detailed of every line, what we found and why we changed it. So there's a very good explanation there, and that's what you use to prepare your tax court petition. It's called, and they have two different types of petition. There's a regular petition, and this is for $50,000. If you owe more than $50,000 in any year, then it's a regular petition. If it's less than that, then you can do the quick petition, and that petition, again, it's for $50,000 or less, and it's a shorter form. But you have to include every one of your objections. If you do not include it in the tax court petition, well, then it's not going to be considered. So you're kind of just admitting it. Okay, this, I'm not going to contest that. I'm not going to object to that. So you have to put every objection very specifically in the tax court petition. And again, that's very important, because you never know where that is going to go, because you need an accountant to go through, again, line by line, and make the argument. Why did you not allow this? Well, it should have been allowed according to the code. And this is where the law meets your tax return. Now, a lot of times the IRS is going on what they call the Irs Manual, and the Irs Manual is based on the law, but it's not the law. And so a lot of times there's some variations that can be done because the law is different than the manual. And so this is where it kind of meets, where you got to go through and say, the law says this, but the IRS says this. So for a good example is a hobby. So the IRS will call something a hobby because you haven't had a profit in the last 3 of 5 years. So they say that's a hobby. But the law doesn't say that. So then you can argue the law and say the law just says if I'm entering into an activity for profit, it's not a hobby, it's a business. So these are the kind of things that you can look for in this audit, after the audit. So you still have an opportunity to appeal, but that's when you generally need a lawyer, unless it's one of the shorter forms. But you should probably get an attorney. Anyway, that's what we help people do here at Open Tax Advocates. Right? We help people fight the IRS. If you're having an audit, or if you have it after the audit, then you should give us a call at 312-664-6649. Again, that number is 312-664-6649. We're going to have the Constitution segment next, so you can join us for that here on AM 560, The Answer. I should have introduced her, but I didn't. I forgot about that, and that's why I did it. I'll talk about her in the beginning of the next segment.
Yeah, that was a great interview with Stephanie.
Yes, I want to thank Attorney Olsson for sharing her views on the Constitution, and you could catch her next week. But I don't know. We should probably do the introduction first. I'm trying to think how we can do this. I'm trying to think how I can do that without, because I want that clip, with the music and then me going into the Mr. Know-It-All segment. But then how can I introduce her and then the clip? Can I do that? Because we do the music, the tax ban. So then I say, I am the tax man. And then.
Just say it after you do your intro. Say that I am the tax man, and be like, I want a real quick thanks, Stephanie.
Okay, I'll do that.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. And if they didn't hear, they're like, oh, he had who on? Let me go back and check that out. Little teaser.
Oh, and you can join her next week because she's going to be on next week. That's what I wanted. That's what I meant to do. I'll learn. It's the first time. I just thought about it a couple days ago.
You can't be the innovator and the perfecter at the same time.
Okay, let me change I got to change the slide here for just a second. I already changed it, so all I have to do is. Okay, now I have to go to the. Let me go to the. IRS. Oh, tiny URL. Oh, I need glasses. I can't see anything. Because it's tiny URL /IRS portal. Oh yeah, so I'm using the irs.gov. So if you're having a question, they have this. It's huge. How many questions they have about this, and you couldn't. I don't know if you could have done anything in the last 3 weeks without seeing something about this child tax credit. It's been everywhere. Everybody's talking about it. It's they're going to send you the money and all of this. And so and there's lots of questions, and it's all here on the irs.gov. So let me find which one I want to use though, because eligibility, calculation of tax credit. That's what. So. Okay, let's go.
Welcome back to the IRS Radio Hour with attorney Stephen Leahy. Stephen has helped hundreds of Chicagoans recover from financial disaster, and he wants to help you and your family. There are resolutions, and you will hear about all those resolutions during today's informative discussion on the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560 The Answer. Now, here's your host, attorney Stephen Leahy.
Yeah, I am the tax man here on AM 560 The Answer. I'm here with Joliet Josh, our technical producer, and you, the listener.
And now, here's that man with a head just crammed full of knowledge, Mr. Know-It-All.
Now, first I want to thank, because we just did the Constitution segment, so I want to thank attorney Stephanie Olsson for joining us for that segment. And she shared her observations on the Constitution. Very much appreciated. And she shares her information about the family law next week on the Trust Radio Network. It's heard every Saturday at 7 o'clock. And our guest next week is attorney Stephanie Olsson from Glasgow and Olsson. So remember, join us there. But in the meantime, I'm going to answer the question. The question is, what's this child tax credit? And why do I keep hearing about it? And so here's the answer. Because it's everywhere. That's why you keep hearing about it. The IRS has pushed this like more than anything not anything, but pretty much. Okay, so they're saying, hey, you're going to get money in the bank. I mean, in your bank account. So I saw someone today, and they said, I went to my bank account today, July 15th. They started sending the money out, and many people got it on. So what do you mean I got it? Because they have your tax return and they have your banking information, and so they sent you the money like they did the stimulus. If you qualified in 19 or 2020, then they figure you're going to qualify in 2021, and so they sent you this money, this child tax credit. Is this something new? The answer is no, it's not new. We've had a child tax credit for a long time, but the difference was you got it at tax time. And how they did, it's different than a deduction. So if I'm making $70,000 a year and I get a $3,000 deduction, Well, I take the and I'm at a 20% tax rate. Let's keep the numbers easy, because that's $14,000 in taxes. Well, if I took the $3,000 off, now I'm going to get taxed on $67,000 and whatever that is. I thought I was going to keep it easy, but okay, it's like $600 difference. So I'm going to save about $600 on that 20% of the 3,000. I'm going to save $600. But a credit comes off of my taxes. So on this, in my example, if I made $70,000 and I had on a 20% tax bracket, my tax is $14,000. I deduct that $3,000 from the $14,000. So instead of saving $600, I'm saving $3,000. That's what a tax credit is, and it's been available for a long time. Now they did raise it. It was last year or the year before. It was $2,000 per qualifying child, and now they raised it to $3,600 for children under 5, ages 5 and under, at the end of 2021. And and they raised it to $3,000 for children ages 6 to 17 at the end of 2021. Okay, so if you qualify, 'cause it's an income qualification, and you have children, and I had a guy call me. Actually, he tweeted me, "Hey, my kids aren't old. In 19 they were 5, but now they're 7, so they don't qualify anymore. But yet the IRS still sent me the money. Why is that?" And here's the answer is because they're wrong. They make mistakes, and they're just looking at your tax returns. And so then I got another guy tweeting me. He said, "They sent me money and I don't qualify." What does that mean? Am I going to be in trouble? Am I going to have to pay interest? Am I going to have to pay penalties? And the answer is not unless. So what's going to happen is if you get money, and remember now, this is not just coming on July 15th. It's going to come on the 15th of the last 6 months of this year. So if I have $3,000 coming for a tax credit, child tax credit, they're going to give me half of that over the next 6 months. So half of 15 of 3,000 is 1,500. Divide that by 6, it's $250 a month. So for the next 6 months, they're going to give me $250. And then when I do my tax return, well, now I'm not going to get that tax credit that I used to get, right? So now I'm not going to be able to deduct what I owe from the IRS. But what if I don't qualify? Now I'm going to add that. So if my tax was $10,000, now I have to add the money that they gave me. If I have one child and they gave me $250 a month, I'm going to owe $1,500. So now I'm going to I'm not going to go owe $10,000. I'm going to owe $11,500. So that's how that all works. It's not that complicated. But here's where the trouble's going to come is if you don't qualify and they give you the money, and then when it's tax time, you don't have the money to pay them back. That's where there's going to be a problem, because now you're going to face penalties. You're going to face interest, and it's not, and that's where it's going to start costing you. Now, if you have a bunch of kids and you don't qualify, they gave you a bunch of money, well, you're going to have to pay it back, and that's when you're going to have to fight with the IRS about collections, and that's where it gets dicey. And that's kind of where we help people. But if you have a question about it, if that's going to happen to you, you can call me. Be happy to answer the question. I do it all the time, and usually it means that you don't have to hire me because there's not enough money at stake to hire a lawyer. But that doesn't mean you don't need help. That doesn't mean you don't need some answers, and we'll be happy to provide you with those answers. Anyway, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Mr. Know-It-All.
Well, you're welcome. And remember now, as I said, you can call us if you have a question about this. You can call OPM Tax Advocates at 312-664-6649. Again, that number is 312-664-6649. You can visit us on the web at chicagotaxteam.com. Now we're going to take another break, so listen to our sponsors. Come on back on the other side here on AM 560, The Answer. This is fun. I'm not kidding. I like to have I'm used to the monitor now when I'm doing it. So, stop looking down and start looking at the camera. Okay? It makes the world of difference. But you got to have a monitor because otherwise I'm looking down at myself all the time. I'll have to see. Right now I'm looking at the Vimeo feed. It's about 30 seconds behind. So maybe next I'll try to get my HDMI cord and just feed it to one of the two. Maybe I can feed it to one of the monitors or my monitor here, and just feed it to that so I can see it in real time. It'd be easier. But I thought it was good. I always use this at church, so I can make sure it's. We were talking about earlier, that when I first started doing it, I had a lot of problems because but now I don't have that many problems. So I don't, I had sound problems. It wasn't working. I forgot to do this. I forgot to do that. And so I always brought the second monitor so I can make sure that it was feeding. I don't really need it anymore. But I do like. I have learned to like that second monitor so I can watch what's going on out. Because in the Switch software, it's not that big. I like it big. I'm blind. I need big. At my office, I told you I got the teleprompter, but I also have like a television about this size up on the wall too. But I don't want to look at that because then I'm looking up all the time. But that's for everybody else it works. Now look at that, Joliet. It's 4:00.
That's because Stephanie was in here getting you going, moving, had to move.
Again, I got to stop talking in between because all the good stuff happens in between.
You were catching yourself today, though. You were like, hold on. Let's get this in show.
Because it's true. No, I was watching the guy about how to interview people, and my kids always say, you interrupt too much, and and I was like, okay, I got my Irs Radio Hour. That's where I can talk. I should let them talk more. Although I like the conversation, but I should really try to highlight them more than me.
It happens.
I know.
There's some who comment everything. So every time the guest is talking, I'm like, do some nonverbal affirmations that you don't pick. Because what if I have to edit that? You never know. So
Yeah. It's
you're
true.
pretty good on that. You usually let them get there. If you're
So
trying to talk, hold on.
And I used to say, hey, let me interrupt you. And I still do that. And then I was thinking any of that banter I could do in between. But again, then I'm afraid to talk about stuff that I'm going to lose. But the banter, if I'm talking about my stuff, I'm going to do that in between. So that's what I'm trying to teach myself to do. Let them, let them do it on the show. And then in between, I can put my 2 cents in about my practice. Because that's what I like about talking about practice. I like talking to other lawyers because of and then you find the similarities between their line of work and my line of work. Like we talked about today, Social Security is a big issue in bankruptcy and in debt collection, and of course it turns out that it's a big deal in divorces too. I drink a lot of coffee today, John. I made a conscious effort to make sure I talked to as many people as I could today because I go to these things sometimes with my wife and she does. I don't like to interrupt people, when they're and I'm small. I'm not one for small talk too much. Hey, isn't the weather awesome?
Great weather. It's really beautiful.
It was really cold over the winter.
It's going to rain this weekend.
It was cold last winter. It's going to be cold next winter too, I heard. That's what I heard. I don't know. What did you hear?
The same thing. We got the same channel. We get the same weather.
So, but it's different. They asked us. We're going to have a little table discussion. And they here's 2 questions, and you can talk amongst the table. So we had 4 people at the table. First question was, if you were to bring something in your afterlife, what would you bring with you? First, I was saying, I subscribe to the notion you can't take it with you. Okay, but I did. I don't know if you watched Curb Your Enthusiasm at all. I've only seen a couple of episodes, to be honest with you. It's one of those shows that I've seen a couple of, and each episode I saw was hilarious, but I just don't watch it. My brother used to watch Family Guy that way, and every time I sat down, I would walk in, he's watching Family Guy, and I think, man, this show is so funny. But I never watched it until my son started watching it, and then I started watching it with him, and and he was younger at the time. I have to tell him, you should be watching, but then I'm laughing like crazy at it. It's a funny show.
I think dads introduce their sons to all the inappropriate shows. I did the same thing with my sons. My dad did the same thing with me. It's like a rite of passage.
Yeah. So, but because I'm like, you can't watch. Oh, this is so funny though. Leave this on. Leave this part on. But in one of the Curb Your Enthusiasm, I've only seen like probably 3 or 4 episodes. Really, one episode was with when he picked up the prostitute to drive to the ballpark because he was running late and he needed to be in the lane, the carpool lane. I thought that was a hilarious episode. And that's what I was talking about today, because the other episode I saw was he went to a guy's funeral and the guy had his golf club he was being buried with his golf club. He's like, hey, that's my golf club. And then so the show was about how is he going to get that golf club out of that guy's casket without anybody seeing. Of course, they found him because Larry is a self-centered narcissist. Of course he is. That's what makes it so funny. Almost as much as George Costanza. They're still making that move, that Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's like
Well, it went on hiatus for a while.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, they brought it back.
I didn't know that.
Popular demand, man. People wanted it.
I guess it's HBO probably, so that's probably why. Although it was on Channel 9 for a while, of course it wouldn't be as funny if it's on regular television. And again, it's one of those shows I think is funny. I just never watch it. Are we on the final segment? You got your sponsorship? Okay. Live. I'll wait for the show.
Welcome back to the IRS Radio Hour with attorney Stephen Leahy. Stephen has helped hundreds of Chicagoans recover from financial disaster, and he wants to help you and your family. There are resolutions, and you will hear about all those resolutions during today's informative discussion on the IRS Radio Hour on AM 560 The Answer. Now, here's your host, attorney Stephen Leahy.
This segment of the IRS Radio Hour brought to you by Triple Zeros, the Triple Zeros podcast available wherever you get your podcast. Triple Zeros, the anti-hot take sports show, because the game's not over until the clock strikes triple zeros. And now, your host, Stephen Leahy.
I love that introduction. I really do. Very good job, Joliet. We're going to talk a little bit about sports, and that's why I almost started talking about it in between, because we just had the All-Star game, and most people may know that I'm a big baseball fan. But I did not watch the All-Star game. But to be truthful, I'm a huge baseball fan, but I don't generally watch the All-Star game. It's not something that my kids always did. And I remember when the home run derby was the biggest thing in the world. And the first couple of years, it's kind of like Michael Jordan in the slam dunk contest. That was huge, and I wouldn't have missed it. But it's like big, there he goes. Oh, that's a 360 dunk. He bounced it off somebody's head, and it's like. Now again, someone's going to come up with something unique, but I'll see it afterwards because they'll show it to me. I know that this year in the All-Star break it was the youngest ever MVP. So I know that. So I saw some of that. I don't know who won. Oshie had the runoff. I'm not even sure how they do the home run derby anymore. Not sure what the rules are. It used to be, you hit as many home runs, whoever hit the most home runs. But
now it's by time.
It's like
outs. Now it's time. It's horrible. It's a horrible system.
Yeah, it's just I understood, and again I didn't watch it, but I understand that they had all the kids in the back with masks on, and of course this was the year that they switched it from Atlanta to Denver as a protest. So I had to protest too and not watch it. I wouldn't have watched it anyway. So it's not really. I wasn't really protesting, although I was protesting. I'm protesting it, but I really wasn't. So now we're going to go back to the second half of the season and watch the Cubs sell everybody, everything, It's a fire sale. I wanted to mention. So my son had found. I bought a couple of baseballs online, and I don't generally do that. I have a bunch of memorabilia of sports memorabilia, signatures. I have bats. I have helmets. I have balls, and I got 4 balls. And here's the guys that are on the balls: Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, Mickey Mantle, and Ted Williams. So 4 big time. And I got a good price on it. I was like, because my son found it. I think he found it on Facebook Marketplace or whatever. And he's like, "Hey, Dad, there's these baseballs for sale at a reasonable price. I did the research. It's a bargain. You should get them." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Because I have a Mickey Mantle ball. I bought it in 1997 at a auction that was held by Ernie Banks' former wife. She found a bunch of his paraphernalia up in the attic. He never came and got it, so she sold it at an auction. And so I bought a Mickey Mantle ball there. I bought a couple of things at that auction, and my son had found the program for that auction online, so I bought that too, so I could prove where all that stuff comes from. So anyway, this is our sports segment. Okay, who brought it to us?
Triple Zeros podcast, available wherever you get your podcast.
Wherever podcasts are sold. So thanks so much for that, Josh. Now remember this: you can listen to the Trust Radio Network. We're gonna have Stephanie Olsson, attorney Stephanie Olsson, talk about family law. If you're having tax problems, go to ChicagoTaxTeam.com. Call them at 312-664-6649. Stay tuned here. Listen to Shalom Klein. And right here on AM 560, The Answer. That was fun. I'll get better. I've only been doing it 7 years. I'll get better.
Like we talked about, though, it's always something different. It's never the same thing that'll get you.
So right before on this show, on today, I put my cameras on and they were working, and then they just both shut off. Why? I don't know why. I want and then one turned on and the other one didn't. I'm like, what happened there? So I had to shut everything out and try it again, and then and I haven't had a problem since. I haven't had that. I never had that problem.
My laptop that I told you I do everything on. It's my work center. The other day made a funky noise. Didn't know what was going on. Now all of a sudden it's slow. I've run all types of stress tests and everything. Fan's blown. Got to buy a new fan.
Okay, so are you one to put a fan in?
I'm going to see how much it costs.
Okay, so I'm one to do that. I'm comfortable.
If it's too pricey, I have no problem doing it. I'm more of a lazy person with stuff like that.
Okay, but fans are probably cheap, usually easy to put in. So I'm not afraid of getting in the innards of computers and televisions.
Yeah, just put it back where you found it.
Like for instance, yeah, exactly. It looks like take a picture first.
Multiple pictures from different angles.
Take a picture. That's why what we have today is how did they do it before?
Oh,
it's like how did you ever meet you?
The first guy to do anything was struggling.
It's like, how did you ever meet somebody? I'll meet you at the corner of. It's like, did you say the southeast corner? Did you mean the north?
I had a client yesterday talk about how before she used to have to print out, and she would be up to 3 o'clock in the morning writing out directions to multiple listings because clients want to see several houses. And, oh goodness.
It says, so how did people do it before a phone? And how did we when I was a kid, you had the trick where you would click call from Joe Smith. If Joe Smith called, means I'm at school.
Remember the commercial? Bob, we Baby eats a boy.
So now you can't find a phone. So anyway, I want to thank you so much for joining us here today. Had a lot of fun. Thanks, Joliet. Had a great time. I want to thank Stephanie Olsson, attorney Stephanie Olsson. Want to give her the proper credit that she deserves. And we're gonna ask you to join us again next week. I guess I don't have to tell you AM 560 because we're not on the radio anymore. This is just a podcast. So let's finish the podcast.
Thank you for being a friend. Watching our podcast till the very end.
And we thank you, and we are going to fade out.